I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to Ozark City Hall. We're glad you're here for the Board of Aldermen meeting and engaging with your elected officials. Listening to perspectives of city residents, business owners, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before the meeting begins, let's review our rules of order. These ensure the meeting is orderly and efficient while allowing everyone who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. There are two opportunities for you to speak: during the agenda's scheduled visitor and guest portion of the meeting and during public discussion of new bills and resolutions. During the agenda's scheduled visitor and guest portion, anyone who signed up at the city clerk's office before 5 p.m. the Wednesday before the meeting can speak to aldermen about the topic they specified. Now, in the public discussion of new bills and resolutions, that allows you to give comments for aldermen to consider before they make a decision. The consent agenda bills are not open to comment. If you want to speak about an item on the consent agenda, you must sign up by noon the Friday before the meeting. You can do that by contacting the city clerk in writing or fill out a card in the council chambers before the meeting starts. Write down the specific bill and give the card to the city clerk before the consent agenda is set. That bill will then go to a first reading, which is open to public discussion, and anyone may speak about it. Anytime anyone is speaking, the following rules apply. First, only one person should speak at a time. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your comments until it's your turn. Second, anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. Third, you must first provide your name and address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. These forms are provided near the entrance. You also must state your name and address to the Board of Aldermen using the podium microphone. Fourth, all comments should be addressed to the mayor and aldermen. Finally, all speakers have 5 minutes to make their comments. The mayor or alderman may have additional questions for speakers after their 5-minute time limit. Occasionally, the board will invite someone to make a presentation at the meeting. This is only to give information to the board about a specific topic. These presenters will have no time limit on giving their information. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded with video and audio unless there are technical difficulties. The use of cell phones or other devices is discouraged during the meeting. Please silence your phones right now. Again, thank you for being here and engaging with the City of Ozark. The meeting will begin shortly.
Roll call.
Alderman Hagan.
Here.
Alderman and our Mayor Pro Tem Galloway.
Here.
Alderman Hutchinson.
Here.
Alderman Metcalf.
Here.
Alderman Steiner.
Here.
We have 5 aldermen present. We have a quorum.
Before we move on to the approval of the minutes, I'll just explain. I am the Mayor Pro Tem, Bruce Galloway. I'm not the elected mayor. The elected mayor is on business with I think the Southern Baptist Convention down in Louisiana. He's not absent very often from our meetings, but he is a secretary for that organization, which is a national organization. He was required to be there. So that is why I am here, and that's because I'm the Mayor Pro Tem. You may notice that I will be both moderating and voting, which is different from what the mayor does. The mayor moderates, but he does not vote except to end a tie. So if you see me voting, that's why. I'm still a council member. With that being said, has every alderman here had an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, is there a motion relating to the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes.
Second. Alderman Hutchinson has moved to accept the minutes. Alderman Metcalf has seconded. Is there any further comment? All in favor of approving the minutes as is, please raise your hand. The minutes are approved by unanimous vote. The next issue on the agenda are the ceremonial matters, but there are none scheduled today. We next have scheduled visitors and guests. And the person who is scheduled is Mr. Buddy Huggins.
I don't believe he's here. I don't see him in the audience.
None, I think he had spoke one time by video, but that's not the case tonight.
No, he didn't reach out for that.
All right. Well, with Mr. Huggins not present, we will move on to the consent agenda. As to setting the consent agenda, have there been any members of the public that have timely requested to oppose the setting of the consent agenda?
No requests have been made.
And are there any two aldermen that do not wish us to move forward with the consent agenda? All right, seeing no hands, then I will move that we consent the agenda, or that we set the consent agenda.
Second.
So I have moved to set the consent agenda. It's been seconded by Alderman Aiken. All in favor of setting the consent agenda? It is passed unanimously. So I will move then as to consent agenda bill 3737, that it be placed on its first and second readings.
Second.
So I have moved to place bill number 3737 on its first and second readings. That has been seconded by Alderman Aiken. All in favor? Has passed unanimously.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the city to apply for, accept, and to do all things necessary for a Missouri Department of Transportation Highway Safety Grant. I will read the bill a second time. An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the city to apply for, accept, and to do all things necessary for a Missouri Department of Transportation Highway Safety Grant.
I move that we adopt bill number 3737 as ordinance number 26-020.
Second.
I have moved to adopt bill number 3737 as ordinance number 26-020. That's been seconded by Alderman Aiken. All in favor? Oh, sorry, roll call vote.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
Having completed the consent agenda bills, we are now to second reading and final passage of bills. These bills are closed to public discussion, and this is board discussion only. And the reason why it is closed to public discussion is that there was a public hearing on bill number 3736 at the last meeting. And so by statute and ordinance, we proceed with board comment only. That being said, is there a member of the administration that wishes to speak on this subject? Oh, you can speak and then we'll
Place it on reading.
We'll place it on the reading.
Okay. Oh, you want me to go ahead, right? Okay. You go ahead and read it. It doesn't.
All right. So I spoke a little prematurely, Jeremy. That's all right. I've got a stick and a string, and I'll pull you back up earlier.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll move that we place Bill 3736 on second reading by title only.
Second. Right. Alderman Aiken has moved to place bill number 3736 on a second reading by title only, and that has been seconded by Alderman Metcalf. All in favor?
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, adjusting sewer charge rates.
Now, Mr. Parsons.
Well, personally, I'm glad we started off with a little levity there. I am happy to answer any questions tonight, and I want to reiterate that we've got our staff present as well as Mr. Dave Van Leer from Cochrane. I know that this has been talked about at several occasions, but if we need to dive into any of the details, I hope what we have provided you is a data-driven approach to how we proceed as a utility company. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Alderman Snyder.
Mr. Parsons, anytime you deal with a rate hike of any kind, you're going to get kickback. Okay, you're going to get some rebuttal. It's not going to be in the favor of those that are trying to apply that rate increase. My biggest concern is I need to know how you come up with the initial number, 17.5%. I need some clarity on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. There's always some kickback on this. I come up here all the time, and you know I love talking about public works. But this is a heavy topic. And what it really boils down to is we did a very thorough analysis of our expenses versus revenue. And what we're seeing in addition to inflation, you know, the price of pipe, power, premiums, all of those things came into play, as well as our existing debt and our revenue stream to service that debt. So all of those things were factored in. And like I said, it is a data-driven approach, but that's how we landed at 17.5%.
Okay. That still doesn't tell me why 17.5% is the initial increase. And I believe it was 8.5 after that. And I believe there were 5% and then 2% or vice versa, you know, and I believe it was almost a 38% increase between 8 to 10 years. I need to know how we come up with those specific numbers.
Yeah, I will tell you that it's a combination of factors, but really, if you want to boil it down, we have not had a water rate increase since 2015, and we have not had a sewer rate increase since 2020. So the reason we spent so much time talking about some of our comparables in the community, some of the other outlying communities around Springfield, was because in essence, we're having to capture a larger percentage of revenue up front simply because we didn't do incremental increases. So what we've outlined for you is an opportunity for us to catch up with those expenses and then work towards an incremental rate increase that is predictable, that people can see. 90% of the communities around here have an annual percentage increase. Because we haven't done that, in some cases up to 11 years, 17.5% is the number that we had to work towards to make ourselves whole.
Okay, now during the initial presentation, excuse me, there were things that were brought into play, like infrastructure needs, taking care of our existing problems that we do have. But there was also the new construction that was brought into play as well. My question is, this 17.5%, is this going to address infrastructure needs first, or is this going to be applied with the developer toward these new proposals that they have on the table?
So we've got two things there, and I want to emphasize, and that's actually one of my notes for tonight. I want to emphasize that we're here to take care of our citizens. We're a utility company, but we're also here to analyze data, and we can see what's coming. We can continue to see growth. So it's not only our job to take care of the existing citizens, but it's also to take care of the investments that we need to make to protect the investments that we've made in the past. And we're seeing these growth rates, and we are planning to make and accommodate the necessary improvements. But item number one is always take care of what we've got in the ground. If we defer maintenance, it's no different than a house or a vehicle. You continue to defer maintenance, it costs you more in the end.
Okay, but will we address those needs first?
It'll be a combination. We've laid it out over a 10-year plan So it's prioritized based upon several of the people you see in the room tonight. But our number one priority, I can tell you this, as a staff, one of the things that we get the most pleasure out of, the downtown project that we did, we were able to bring in new infrastructure and rehab the infrastructure for areas that have been neglected for a long time. Several of the projects that you're going to see over the next 10 years is to continue to address that.
Okay. One more thing, and then I'll relieve myself from the microphone here. But last 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about this, in your presentation, you alluded to several outlying areas or other cities. And the one that was most prominent was the city of Republic. Now, I'm not picking on Republic because that's not professional. We can poke fun at them, but it's not professional. However, I believe what they did over there was self-inflicted with all of their excessive growth all at one time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think that's why we continue to say the word smart, managed, sustainable. I think, and I'm not here to disparage them either, but I think sometimes too much unmanaged growth, there's a cost for that in the end. And we don't want to get to that point ever.
Do you think that's going to occur here with things like Marabella?
I think that we've got a plan in place that not only protects our existing infrastructure, but prioritizes the improvements that we need to make in the future, regardless of if we have a population growth. There's certain things that we just need in that area for redundancy, for fire protection, those types of things.
Okay, I appreciate that. And by the way, your crew, you guys do a phenomenal job.
There's a salt
And
in
that's just the way I feel about it. You do a great job.
Yeah.
But I think there may be another avenue here.
Other questions? Thank you, Alderman Snyder. Other questions for Director Parsons? I did, if nobody else has, just a couple. And mainly, well, no, I'll ask it this way. You have two separate circumstances that are driving costs up, as I understand it, which is what you're trying to prepare for. One is just the increased costs that it takes to maintain what you have in the ground. Did I hear that right?
That's correct.
And so I think that's what you meant by we have to take care of the stuff that is in the ground regardless. Okay, so that is the inflationary side, and all of us, I think, are aware that particularly construction costs, excavation, materials for that, labor have skyrocketed since the last sewer increase in 2020.
That's correct.
And then the second component, as I follow what you were saying, is projected growth.
That's correct.
So I think the idea there would be we live in an area that has top-rated schools, which draws in a lot of interest and people coming into Ozark, and they can go to our schools whether they live in a county boundary or a city boundary. But we are able to protect existing landowners if they're landing in our planning and zoning areas and being annexed, so their houses are up to standard. So we know that we are going to be growing, and we have to manage that growth, is what I've heard you say.
That's correct.
Then Alderman Snyder, he referred to Republic, and what had happened there is they had an opportunity for tremendous commercial growth from Amazon, and I think maybe Convoy of Hope.
Those are two of the largest. Yeah.
Massive facilities, but those massive facilities pulling in a lot of resources from water and sewer. And so what has happened there is their ratepayers now face an increase, I think, of 95%. Did I read that right?
That's correct.
So I think what Alderman Snyder is saying, we're not in that situation where we have outpaced our growth.
No, sir, we are not. And back to your point about growth, I think you all should be proud of people wanting to invest in this community. Like you said, the school district, I think what the city provides in terms of a live, work, and play opportunity, people desire to be here. And whether we're anti-growth or pro-growth, I'm telling you that the free market, people are coming. And it would be foolish of us to stick our heads in the sand and just pretend that they're not coming. So yes, protecting our investments, protecting our citizens, and properly planning for growth.
And I would want to also stress as to quality of life, or add to quality of life, is low crime area, an outstanding police department, and very good infrastructure. Our roads are excellent, and Public Works has been excellent. Okay, so I had visited with Alderman Snyder a little bit about his concerns prior to this meeting. And I think where one of his questions was going was, for the initial bump, we have a capital improvement plan. So the capital improvement plan specifies where we are investing our money over, or we'd like to invest our money, or where we need to invest our money over the years. Can you help identify initially what kind of capital expenditures will be covered by this initial increase?
Yeah, it's a great point. We just, as you all know, we just presented and you all approved the 5-year capital improvement plan. We took that plan and expanded on that. We actually forecast out 10 years. The types of projects that you're going to see is a reinvestment in some of our older communities where that infrastructure is to the point where it needs to be rehabbed. A lot of the investment that we're going to make is to continue to maintain these things. Some of the investment, we're seeing issues on the north side of town right now with water production. So some of that requires our attention already. So we've got a 5-year plan, and then we forecast out another 5 years after that. And those capital improvements, both water and sewer, is how we came up with the $104 million worth of investment that we have had to prioritize. And that's a combination of maintenance, and it's a combination of proper planning. And that's where we landed in the grand scheme of things. In order to properly grow and to properly maintain, that number's not arbitrary. That number is all backed by spreadsheet after spreadsheet. And it's backed by approved plans that we put together.
So going back to projected growth, the increased costs of maintaining what we already have in the ground, and the need to handle that regardless. I think what you are saying is that the initial bump of rate increases, the people who will benefit from that are those with identified aging infrastructure, and you have that mapped out, and they will see improvements.
That's correct. It's a combination of those types of projects. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't also mention, like we did in the previous presentations, the cost of power. What it takes to get this water out of the ground, what it takes to treat the sewer. Over the last 11 years, we have seen the cost of power go up tremendously. So it's not just about growth. It's not just about maintaining. It's also about what we call O&M. And that's operations and maintenance on a daily level.
Some of it was just coming.
Yeah.
Okay. In light of my questions, does anybody else have questions of Director Parsons? Thank you, Director Parsons.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That's good.
Alderman Hutchinson.
It seems to me that, well, when I have friends and people who look at a map of Ozark, they see a very interesting town because we are not sprawling tremendously, but we have huge sections of land in the interior of the city. And so I would say that probably the future of development isn't a decision of Public Works. It's a decision that comes from this board of how much building, how dense the building, what kinds of housing, all of those things, what commercial things are going to be built. And just the infill of the city, is that how you did, what you operated from, not necessarily sprawling outside our city limits and annexing lots of land, but just filling in
Yes.
what we have empty?
That's a great point. As you can see from our annexation map over the years, at one point there was a lot of sprawling. And as staff and as elected officials, we have chosen through planning exercises, master plans, all of these things to focus on the infill of that area. And when you already have these existing long mains, trunk lines, mains in place, as you infill, you're maximizing the utilization of that infrastructure. So that's where we're really focused. I always tell people, you can look at our map and you can either look at it as a bad case study in sprawl, or you can just see the opportunity. And I'm an optimist, so I see the opportunity. And I think we've got the right plans and the right people in place to capitalize on that infill.
But still, as it becomes denser and the usage of water and sewer become, whether it's sprawled out or not, we're going to have the need for more water sources, more sewer treatment. And that's an expense that really is just going to happen. And there's not a lot we can do. We can't take land rights away from those people who own that empty land to develop it. They may have been using that, planning on that for their retirement.
That's correct.
And so we cannot do that. So it's inevitable in that sense.
That's correct. All we can do is our best to manage it and maintain it in the most efficient manner possible.
Thank you.
Any other aldermen wishing to direct questions to Director Parsons? All right, I don't see any. Thank you, Director Parsons. I have a question for the city administrator. You were copied on an email from the mayor, and he had comments that he wanted read, which I did print off, but I don't remember if it was addressed to both sewer and water, and I don't know if he intended it to be read at this point or not, if you recall.
I think he intended it to be read at this point in time.
Any other board comments before I read the mayor's comments? All right. This is from Mayor Don Currens. I regret that I cannot be with you tonight as you consider the proposed water and sewer rate increases. While I do not vote on these matters, I want to share my perspective and encourage your support. Ozark enjoys an exceptional quality of life supported by reliable municipal services. Our water and sewer systems are among the most essential, serving more than 10,000 customers around the clock through a complex network of infrastructure, equipment, and dedicated staff. Maintaining this system is costly, and rates must occasionally be adjusted to reflect the true cost of operation. Water rates have not increased since 2015, and sewer rates have not increased since 2020, even as the cost of providing these services has risen each year. Through careful planning, operational efficiencies, and the use of reserves, we have delayed increases as long as possible. That approach is no longer sustainable. No one welcomes higher rates, but the value we receive, consistent, safe, dependable service at a modest monthly cost, is undeniable. Adjustments are necessary to preserve the quality and reliability our community expects. Staff have conducted extensive analysis and long-range planning to bring forward a responsible, well-supported recommendation. It reflects what is needed now and what will be required in the years ahead. The proposal before you is reasonable, thoughtful, and essential to maintaining the high standard of service our residents deserve. I urge you to approve it, and I appreciate your careful consideration. Do I have a motion for Bill number 3736?
I move that we adopt Bill 3736 as ordinance number 26-021.
I second that.
All right, Alderman Aiken has moved to adopt Bill number 3736 as ordinance number 26-021. That has been seconded by Alderman Hutchinson. Now have a roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder.
Nay.
We have 4 aye votes, 1 nay. Motion carries.
We now move to first reading bills and resolutions. These bills and resolutions are open for public discussion. And so for a formal public hearing, I will entertain a motion as to bill number 3738.
Yes, I move that we place bill number 3738 on its first reading by title and brief description only.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf to place bill number 3738 on its first reading by title only. That has been seconded by Alderman Aiken. All in favor?
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the zoning classification of certain real property located in the 1400 block of East Hartley Road.
Is there a staff member willing to speak on this issue?
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the board. We have, this agenda item represents a rezoning request of 1.85 acres on the southwest corner of East Hartley Road and 14th, South 14th Avenue. This zoning request comes tonight with you with a slight twist in that there are a list of 7 conditions that staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission have asked you to consider 2 weeks, well, excuse me, during the second reading approval of this rezoning request. So we'll go through those in just a minute. A little bit of overview. Again, this is 1.85 acres. It's that area in red. It's located on the southwest corner. It is surrounded, somewhat germane to the previous discussion, city limits on all sides. It is platted into 4 residential lots now. That is one request to rezone all 4 of those at the same time. One of those conditions would be to combine those. And we did that so that we wouldn't be having 4 agenda items. We want them to be considered all at once. We wouldn't want to just rezone 3 of the 4 or 1 of the 4. So this property is located north of South Street. So if you're familiar with where Dollar General is, on 14th and South Street, and it's also just north of the Excelsior Gardens apartments. So this is street view from looking southwest from 14th, and the property's elevated from the intersection somewhat. This is kind of a weird perspective, but this is what you would see looking to the vacant property to the southwest. These are the factors we asked the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider, as you as well. What's the zoning in the general area? What are trends? What recommendations does the comprehensive plan offer? And is the property suitable for the proposed zoning? Looking at the zoning of the surrounding properties to the north, to the west, and to the east, it's all zoned single family. The property that's kind of an inset there just immediately to the west is also zoned single family. The property to the south is zoned R3, and the apartments that I referenced are also zoned R3. They're probably more of an R4 density, but they happen to be zoned R4. Guidance from the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan does recommend this property be zoned for multifamily or used as multifamily. The comprehensive plan goes on to make recommendations about affordable housing, providing diverse housing, finding gaps in the market to provide diverse housing for different demographics as well. It also makes reference to the city pursuing new code amendments, kind of dealing with smart codes and things like that to kind of address character and design considerations in new development. So we'll talk just more about that in just a minute. This is a snapshot of the actual reference to our comprehensive plan that speaks to housing diversity, infill development in areas that are kind of in transitional areas and things like that. Also to support different housing forms and building types, specifically condominiums, townhomes, duplexes, and low density apartments. So looking at the site itself, those two stripes you see on the east and west side that are in yellow, those represent a required 25-foot buffer. So the development area where the actual townhouses or homes would be built would have to be on the inside of that property. The driveway itself would be there where that red line is. That's where the existing driveway is. That would remain in approximately the same place. As I said, there are 4 lots. Those would need to be combined into one tract of land before development could occur. For R3 zoning, they're allowed to have 1 dwelling unit for every 2,500 square feet of property. So that equates, when you do the math for 1.85 acres, they could have a maximum of 32 dwelling units. The developer is willing to put a condition on there that maximizes no more than 20. I think he's generally proposing 16, but he's given himself a little bit of cushion. With respect to sidewalks, there is not a sidewalk on East Hartley. There's nothing to connect, so that it's most likely they would request a buyout. And at this point, Public Works has tentatively expressed a desire or willingness to support that. Water and sewer are available to the site. There would be an extension to the site itself, but it is available. Stormwater generally flows to the the northwest. So everything would kind of flow towards the intersection. That's most likely where detention would be held. They would have to do a stormwater report as typical at the time of development. 14th Street is a collector street. Hartley is a primary collector. There would be some additional right-of-way acquired at the time of development as well. As I said, 1 driveway would be available to serve the entire development, and a traffic study would be conducted at the time of development to confirm no impacts on traffic, or if so, what improvements would be required to Hartley. So I mentioned those conditional overlays, those conditions that we would request and the Planning and Zoning Commission agreed with. The developer was amenable to putting a maximum of 20 dwelling units on the development, and not exceeding a 22,000 square foot buildable area. So when you look at that in terms of the entire site, that only represents 27% of the 1.85 acres. And when I said that they could develop 32 units, if they were to maximize the R3 zoning, that's really the 38% reduction in what they could do by limiting to 20 units. I mentioned the 4 lots would need to be combined, and that would be done before a building permit would be issued. The other conditions that we've asked the developer to place on this relate to the buildings themselves. The developer, the property owner, has agreed to limit it to 2 stories. He's agreed to limit the materials on the facade of the buildings to masonry products built brick or stone, that type of thing, and no vinyl siding would be used. And then when you look at the project as a whole, I think there's approximately 5 or 6 units or buildings with multiple units in it. No 2 buildings would look the same. So when you've got 6 units, each of the 6 would be individually designed or look different with different materials, facades, and things like that. So with that, I'll answer any questions. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this in January. They recommended approval. There was some opposition from neighbors at the public hearing. I think there's some folks here willing to speak that'll kind of go over that. But with that, I'll answer any questions, and staff does recommend approval.
Before we open it up to the public, are there any board members who have questions or comments to be directed to Alderman Snyder?
What kind of opposition?
Neighbors. There was some neighbors on Hartley Street that were opposed to the development for various reasons, traffic mainly, concerns with safety, pedestrians.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from board members to be directed at our director? Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll now open it up to the public as to bill number 3738. Is there a member of the public or members of the public who would wish to speak first in favor of this bill? I see no takers. So then again, as to bill number 3738, are there any members of the public who would wish to speak in opposition to this bill? Yes, sir. If you could provide.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Monty Horning,
If you could.
1509
Oh,
East
thank
Hartley.
you. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yep, that's
I was
okay.
going to ask you for the address and I talked right over you. Did you get that?
That's okay.
Chandra?
Yes.
So I spoke at the planning and zoning meeting. I was the only one that spoke because there was a great deal of confusion because there was an assumption by several of the neighbors that that meeting was canceled because of the weather, because the city offices were closed, but the county was not, or vice versa. There were several members of the community there that would probably have come and spoke, but after the way the development down the road across from East was handled, I think it was probably best said by my neighbor to the west. He was like, I'm just going to get the hell out. So he sold his home and left Ozark. If that's what Ozark is becoming, that any parcel of ground can be changed zoning wise to accommodate a more dense population there, you don't have to worry about the urban sprawl. You're going to have a population sprawl. And where you have infrastructure, not just water and sewer, but roads that are not equipped to handle the traffic that's on it now, and it continually gets ignored, you're going to run into problems. That road is, the traffic on it is overwhelmingly high. Adding another 30 vehicles to the intersection of Hartley and 14th is a bad idea. A lot of the traffic that comes from the neighborhoods east of this development that comes down Hartley would turn on 14th to go to South Street. As I'm sure you're aware, MoDOT has decided they're going to widen South Street from 14th west, but they are not going to put a traffic light in there. That's already in the morning, you're talking about sometimes a 10-minute wait to get through that intersection. So we're going to add potentially another 20 vehicles trying to use that route. Not to mention the fact that, as was indicated, the safety there, if you're going to have apartments, you're going to have a lot of young families, a lot of kids. There's no sidewalks. There's very poor lighting. I know many of you recognize me from having spoke on this before, me and my wife both. She decided not to come tonight because she's given up. And if this kind of thing continues, that's what's going to continue to happen. If people are pushed out of the R1, the housing, because they feel like they're being overrun by apartment buildings and things like that, is that what you guys want for Ozark? I would think not, but think about it. How many of you, when you go to purchase a property, you look around and see what's around the property? Do you not? So you buy a place, you move in, next thing you know, you got apartment buildings popping up all around you. I mean, if that was what I'd wanted when I purchased property, then I wouldn't have picked where I was at. Had I known the infrastructure issues with the roads and stuff, I would have strongly considered against that property. I originally started out in Springfield. I got the hell out of Springfield because of the overwhelming issues that they had of the representative government tending to not represent the people that elected them. I hope that's not becoming the case here. As I said, I wish more of my neighbors would have appeared tonight and spoke, but the sense that I get from having talked to him is, starting with the development down across from East Elementary, they're like, so what do we do? So when I spoke at the planning and zoning, we asked about the traffic study that was promised after they said they were going to do the East Elementary. Has that ever come out? Because the information I got at the planning and zoning was the last traffic study was 12 years old. There have been a lot of neighborhoods that have been built and a lot of houses that have been built since then. So I would encourage you guys to look into this, get a traffic study done, table this and see whether this can be supported or not. Because I don't believe it can with the current infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that are present here tonight that wish to speak against Bill number 3736? I see no response. And I'll ask the board members, are there, yes, Alderman A.
Well, thank you. I live on Hartley Road as well, just down the road from Mr. Horning, and so I'm familiar with some of the history that he outlined with regard to the property across from East Elementary. I guess I would note that the board did decline to rezone that property for multifamily. I think there were a lot of comments. I was a citizen at the time. I stood at the podium and argued against that ordinance. And I think there were a lot of comments by board members recognizing that Hartley Road is really an exclusively single-family residential road. I do think this is an interesting proposal, and I'm kind of on the fence about it. I see 14th. I'm just kind of airing my thoughts about this, and do with it what you will. And I see 14th as kind of transition. Well, let's start with State Highway 14. I think one can assume that will continue to develop commercially, and then collector roads like 14th ought to serve as transitional zoning from commercial to the single family to the north on Hartley and north of Hartley. And so, you see that, and you look at the zoning map, and it's not pulled up, but there is, I don't know where the transition ought to occur. There is commercial zoning in the form of Dollar General on the corner of 14th and 14. And then you have a pretty significant multifamily development north of the Dollar General with the Excelsior Gardens. And then you have another potential multifamily project to the north of Excelsior Gardens. And when I first looked at that map, I thought, I feel like that currently zoned R3, that ought to be the cutoff for where R3 transitions into R1A and the other single family residential districts. Now, I do appreciate that where I get on the fence about it is I think the applicant working with planning and zoning has realized that a straight multifamily application wouldn't get through wouldn't get past the board, and I think that's probably true. And so he's agreed to make some concessions to make this kind of a multifamily light district, and by altering some of the spatial limitations, the footprint, the number of units. Ultimately, I still feel like butting the multifamily right up against Hartley, that extends that intensity of use a little too far, infringing into the single family neighborhood. But certainly with the conditions, it's given me a little more food for thought. I still tend to lean against this, given like I said, I think it just is a little too far past that point of transition that I think is represented by that currently existing R3 district. Those are my thoughts. I yield the floor.
Any other board comments? Any other members of the public that have not already spoken that wish to speak as to bill number 3736? Seeing no hands, I will close the public hearing as to bill number 3736. It will be held over for our next legislative session for its second reading. We will move on, or I said 3736. I meant 3738. We'll turn the page on the agenda. There are no new bills, so we will move to resolutions. And we have resolution number 2035.
I move that we read resolution number 2035.
Second.
Alderman Aiken has moved to read resolution 2035. That's been seconded by Alderman Metcalf. All in favor?
A resolution by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, adopting certain adjustments to the water rates pursuant to Section 705040 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Ozark.
Director Parsons.
Yes, thank you again. I just want to back up and kind of remind everyone, the sewer rate increase that we just discussed and were able to pass this evening, we had to do that by ordinance. So that went through two readings, the first one with the public hearing, the second reading tonight. After digging into our ordinances and our code, the water rate increase is actually done via resolution. So that's why we're breaking these up. And I know that we presented this kind of in concert throughout because water and sewer do function in concert. They're under the same funding code. The 201 fund is what we call it. I also want to remind you that for this resolution tonight, we've got our two lead water operators back here. We've got Drake Holland and Cameron Carr. I want to thank the comments that we hear about Public Works. We couldn't do this without these people. They've been heavily involved. And like the mayor said in his statement, they're there 24/7, 365. So we've also have our consultant still here. He hasn't ran away yet. So if there's any questions about this, I will just remind you that this is the rate increase that we have not seen since 2015. Our analysis shows that the surrounding communities are about 57% higher on average. So we want to make sure that that's known. We're still going to be competitive in that price, but for all the same reasons, we are looking to you tonight to move forward with this increase as stated in the rate study that we provided and the presentation. This is one of those mission critical moments, if you will. These aren't easy decisions to make, but I will tell you, if we don't make them, those decisions become more and more difficult later on. So I think we're on the right path. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Board questions for Director Parsons, Alderman Aiken.
I'll first echo the sentiment expressed earlier by Alderman Snyder. We take Public Works, our guys, for granted. They don't work for our praise. I know that their mission. I've talked to them. They're mission driven. The mission is its own reward for them. But we ought to tell them that when they're in the room, that we appreciate the work they do. Dovetailing off Alderman Snyder's question, maybe anticipating him asking the same question, I don't know, with regard to this resolution. How did it shake out that we ended up with the same rate increase schedule for water? Or it is the same, isn't it?
It is.
Does it just shake out that way? Because we have had an increase. We haven't had an increase for one since 2015, and we haven't had an increase on the other since 2020. So can you explain that?
Yeah, so due to this, water and sewer, two different animals, even though we talk about them in concert most of the time. I will say that water, in terms of maintenance and operations, is a little less investment heavy. And due to the fact that we haven't had a water rate increase in that additional 5 years, all the way back to 2015, sewer was in 2020, so we kind of addressed that at the time. We were able to come up with a number almost even when it came to our capital improvement plan. We've got about $60 million that were identified in the sewer capital improvements and about $44 million in the water. But due to the fact that we hadn't raised rates since 2015, 17.5% was the number to make us whole again and to keep us on track. And if you'll remember that graph that we showed the expenses outpacing the revenues, we put that into the spreadsheet and made sure that we're in a situation. And remember, the goal here is to not only protect what we have, to maintain what we have, but it's also to make sure that we have healthy reserves in place. Best management practices, I should say, is to have 6 months worth of operating revenue. So we factored that into the equation as well. So, and this will be consistent across the board, 17.5% the first year. We'll recommend 8.5%. I want to emphasize too that this study is just like any other study that we do. It's a living, breathing document. We are not going to stop fighting for grants. We are not going to stop fighting for force multipliers. We're not going to stop fighting to run our utility company like a business. And that means taking a hard look every year at our expenses, our operating costs. Really proud of what our team has done just from an overtime standpoint. So we try to maximize our efficiencies, and I can promise you that we'll continue to do that. This is a rate increase study that predicts those rate increases over the next several years, but due to the way that our codes are written, we'll revisit this. And I'm hoping I come back in a few months with some really good news about an EDA grant. I'm hoping other money is out there. But I say all that to say that know that we will continue to work hard to leverage the dollars that we have and maximize the benefits of the programs that are available to us out there.
This is a testament to how much information you've thrown at us over these past several meetings. We've talked about this because you've, I'm sure, given this information to us before, but I can't remember this 6-month best practice. It's best practice to have reserves that meet 6 months worth of your operating expenses. Is that right?
You nailed it.
Are we satisfying that?
At this time, we are.
Okay.
And that's one of the factors that plays into the rate increase to make sure that as we continue to move forward, we can meet that best managed practice.
Okay. And then just kind of to summarize, if I can, what you said before, the deficits a little greater on the water side. The future improvements are a little less than sewer. Those kind of offset, and you arrived at the same schedule of increases.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Aiken. Alderman Snyder.
Jeremy, how many water towers do we have?
Currently, we have 12 wells, and we have 6 water towers, 7 water towers, sorry, and one of which we're getting ready to hopefully move forward. The tracker tower is undersized, so we're looking at putting more water in the air there. And one of the projects that we have is to address the Grand Haven, Waterford, and Rivers area. That's one of those areas that's already developed, but we want to make sure that they have adequate fire protection, redundancy, pressures in that area.
Okay. The 4 recent water towers, the big boys that we have, are those paid for?
I believe the debt falls off in 2026 on the water towers. A little bit longer. Okay. So I know that the state revolving funds that we utilized on the sewer side, the last time we went out, actually, I've got it right here. The last time that we went out for any type of bonds for those water towers, the big boys, as we call them, that was in 2013. And that's when we increased rates. And then we had two sequential rate increases after that. So, the water co-op bonds look like they mature they were taken on in 2016. We took on some additional in 2022. Some of those mature in 2033. Some of them mature in 2038. The sewer bonds is what I was referring to earlier. The Elk Valley sewer bonds, I know we're not talking about that right now, but those fall off in 2026, 2027. So.
Okay. And you'd mentioned like you're still going to strive to get multipliers and grants. If in fact you're successful in securing any of those additional monies, is that going to affect the ratepayers? Are they going to see a decrease with their rates?
I think that's our commitment to you, is to continue to find those opportunities. And as we go back and annually bring this to you, factor that in. It's our goal to come to you and potentially say, hey, because of these different incentives or this federal funding that we've gotten, we can pull back a little bit. I can't assure that because I don't have, all the federal funding in front of me. But what I can promise you is that we'll never stop trying to get those federal dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Snyder. Any other board comments or questions directed at Mr. Parsons? Thank you, Director Parsons. We are considering resolution number 2035. Is there any motion?
Move to adopt.
Were you asking if you need to open it to the public? Yes, they can speak to a
Okay,
resolution.
very
Sorry, there's
good.
not a formal public hearing on this bill. I
Not a
apologize.
formal public forum. Very good. Thank you, Alderman Aiken, for raising that issue. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak first for resolution 2035? I see no hands. Are there any members of the public that are here who wish to speak against resolution 2035?
Jeannie McFall, 1324 East Warren Avenue. I'm really not against the resolution, except the idea that it's less than 30 days before there'll be an increase to the public. We're dealing with 2 increases here, plus a 30% increase with Liberty on our electric rates for our community, and a trash service increase at the same time. So it's just one of those things I think the public needs a little bit more time to budget for these increases that are coming about. And I do appreciate that you're looking at an increase and not selling your water system the way Bolivar did to Liberty, because that happened and it hurt the community drastically. So, and another thing, Jeremy's talked about the electronic water meters. I don't know when that will be in place, but I think that will be a big savings for the community to be able to have that. I just got a phone call from city utilities because my water usage was down, and they wanted to know if there was a problem with the meter possibly. So you might just keep that in mind. That'd be a great deal to make sure that that's done and the public knows it's coming.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who are here who wish to speak for or against or neutrally to a 2035? I see no hands. Now, Mr. Aiken.
Yes, sir. I move that we adopt Resolution 2035.
Second.
It's a motion from Alderman Aiken to adopt resolution number 2035, seconded by Alderman Metcalf. Roll call or?
No, a resolution can just be by hands unless the board wants to vote by roll call.
All right. All in favor of adopting resolution 2035, please raise your hands. All opposed? Passes 4-1. I want to thank the members of the public for giving their input today. Very thoughtful comments delivered very professionally, I thought. We will now move on to report of officers, boards, and committees. City Administrator Eric Johnson.
Yes, Your Honor, Mayor Pro Tem, I have one announcement, and that is a reminder that we have a work session this Thursday, which will be February 19th from 11:30 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon. So we hope that that is on your schedule and that we will see you Thursday. We anticipate using the full 2 hours. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any questions for the City Administrator from the board? Planning and Development has submitted a written report, but Mr. Whitman, you are here to say something in addition.
I assumed I'd have the opportunity. In addition to our report, we have an agenda item on Thursday's non-legislative meeting to give you a brief report on some amendments to the plan development ordinance. So we'll talk about that briefly. Looking ahead, a week from this coming Monday night at the Planning and Zoning Commission, they will consider those amendments as well. We have a procedural matter for them to consider. They've asked for a documented, I guess you could say, process for canceling meetings due to the winter weather we had last month. There was some confusion about City Hall being closed and whether or not there would be a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So we've drafted some language for them to adopt. So it's going to be a brief meeting, no agenda items to talk about development, just procedural matters. So that's all I had to report and share.
Comments or questions directed to Mr. Whitman from the board? None? Looks like you've covered your bases. OC Parks and Recreation Director Hayden Posner.
Good evening. You all will find my written report in front of you. I'm happy to answer any additional questions if there are any.
Questions of the board? There are none. Mayor and Board of Aldermen comments and announcements. Alderman Metcalf.
Yeah, I just wanted to welcome back City Attorney Callaway. It's nice to have you back. You were missed. Good to see you.
Alderman Aiken.
And I will just say that I was excited to see the railing and the City Ozark lettering on the pedestrian overpass, Chadwick Flyer Bridge. So I don't know, can we anticipate some kind of ceremonial ribbon cutting in the near future? Is that? ready
Yes,
to be announced?
that's
or-
being planned.
Okay.
The date is not yet announceable. So Maria and her team are working on that. We're looking at sometime in spring.
Well, that sounds good. I wasn't putting you on the spot about that.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot about the ribbon cutting. I just meant to say that it looked good, and I applaud all those who are involved in working on that project. So thank you.
Any other comments? I'll just say that for the public, our city attorney, Callaway, left us to welcome a new citizen of the United States. Hallie, congratulations, and it's very good to have you back. I will entertain another motion.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Are you sure?
Alderman Snyder very nicely asked to adjourn, and that was seconded by Chris Aiken. All in favor? We are adjourned.